My ex-boss fired me to replace me with his nephew, so I took the company's biggest client with me. Let me start by saying, I'm not proud of what I did. But I'm not sorry either. I worked as an account manager at a mid-sized marketing firm for 6 years. I wasn't just good at my job, I was great. My clients liked me, my numbers were strong, and I trained half the department. I wasn't flashy, but I was reliable. Profitable. Then came Rick, the CEO's new golden boy nephew. Rick was fresh out of business school and walked in like he owned the place. He was assigned to shadow me, and within a month, he was suggesting improvements that usually meant copying my work and presenting it in meetings like it was his. Then, out of nowhere, I was pulled into HR. We're restructuring, they said. Your position is being dissolved. I was shocked. Furious. I asked if it had anything to do with Rick. We can't comment on internal matters, they said. Yeah. Right. 2 weeks later, I found out Rick had taken my job, my clients, and my office. He even used a pitch deck I created, unchanged, to land a new client. The disrespect was unreal. I could have raged. I could have gone scorched earth. But I played the long game instead. Here's what Rick didn't know. One of my clients, the biggest one on our books, let's call them Titan Core, was a personal relationship. I didn't inherit them from the company. I brought them with me. The CEO of Titan Core, Laura, was someone I'd worked with for years at my previous job. We built her entire brand from scratch. She trusted me. So after I was fired, I took her out for coffee. She was furious when she heard what happened. Said she'd had a bad feeling after getting an auto-generated email about her new account manager. I told her I was going to start freelancing, small at first, just a few clients. And that's when she said the words that changed everything. You get yourself a legal LLC and a company email, and I'll move everything over to you. I don't want my brand in the hands of some cocky kid. So that's what I did. I used part of my severance to file the paperwork, bought a domain, set up a website, and 3 weeks later I had my own marketing agency, lean, hungry, and fully remote. Laura pulled the plug on her contract with my old company 2 days after Rick introduced himself in an awkward Zoom call. He sent her follow-up emails. She ignored them. He called. She blocked him. The fallout was delicious. Titan Core accounted for almost 35% of the firm's revenue. They just spent thousands on a new campaign rollout. And now they were gone. Word spread fast. 2 more of my former clients reached out to me directly. They weren't under contracts. They followed Titan Core out the door. But I wasn't done. I knew that company inside and out. I knew when their lease was up, who their biggest vendors were, even that their head designer was miserable and ready to quit. She did. And I hired her 2 weeks later. I stayed quiet. Professional. I never said a bad word about Rick or the firm. I didn't need to. I let my work speak for itself. Within 6 months, I had 5 of their ex-clients, a small but powerful team, and monthly revenue that matched what I made in a year at my old job. And Rick? I heard through the grapevine that he stepped down after the Titan Core fiasco. Which is rich, because his stepping down came right after the company laid off half their staff and closed 2 regional offices. My old manager even reached out and asked if I was hiring. I was. I wasn't petty enough to say no. The best part? Last month, Titan Core invited me to speak at a conference Rick had attended the year before as a company rep. This year, he was just a name tag in the audience. I gave a keynote about client retention through authentic relationships. And when I looked out over the crowd, I saw Rick. Sitting in the 3rd row. Expressionless. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I just finished my talk and walked off stage. Because the best revenge isn't loud. It's building the life they tried to take from you, and making it even better. I took the company's biggest client, now I'm taking their entire reputation. After my keynote at the marketing conference, things exploded. Not publicly. Not in a viral, trending, social media kind of way. I wasn't interested in drama. I was building something real. But within a few days of the event, I had 11 new inquiries from companies that wanted to meet, collaborate, or switch over from their current agency. Turns out, people talk. Especially when they know you're the guy who quietly crippled his old firm by taking their crown jewel of a client, and then walked off stage like a ghost. But this part isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about legacy. Let me explain. I called my company, Third Rail. The name came from something my old manager used to say: clients are like electricity, you manage them well, or they fry you. It stuck. I wanted to build a firm that wasn't bloated, arrogant, or greedy. No more interns doing the heavy lifting while execs took the credit. No more ghosting clients for 2 weeks while chasing the next big lead. And definitely no more nepotism promotions. So I handpicked my team. Maya, the designer I'd poached from the firm after Rick ran her ragged. She was a wizard with visual branding and finally happy again. Elias, a copywriter I used to mentor, who'd left marketing entirely because of burnout. I convinced him to come back on his terms: freelance, no meetings, work late if you want, disappear on Wednesdays if needed. Jess, a college intern from my old firm who was wildly underappreciated. I gave her a full-time position and a title that matched her talent. We were small. Tight. Sharp. And we were eating the agency world alive. Within a year, we weren't just the agency that took Titan Core. We were the agency that never lost a client. Not one. We were fast. Honest. Efficient. If we said something would be ready Monday at 9 a.m., it was waiting in their inbox at 8:59. We had no middlemen. Every client had direct contact with the person actually doing the work. Our retention rate? 100%. Referral rate? Over 75%. And that's when something happened that I didn't expect. My old firm tried to copy us. I started seeing job posts from them that looked suspiciously like my company's structure: flat team hierarchy, full creative freedom, results-oriented over hours worked. They even launched a sub-brand called Core 3, with a name, design, and mission suspiciously close to Third Rail. One of their ex-clients sent me a pitch deck from Core 3. I nearly laughed. They'd used the same colors, structure, and even some of my taglines. It was embarrassing. And deeply satisfying. But I wasn't done yet. Then came the opportunity of a lifetime. A Fortune 500 tech company, let's call them Helix Systems, announced they were looking for a new brand agency to lead a global rebranding campaign. Estimated value: between $1.20 and $1.5 million annually. They put out a general call for agencies to apply. And of course, both Third Rail and my old firm applied. I knew at the moment I saw the firm's VP post about a major opportunity for growth and partnership with a world-class innovator. They were desperate. It was the first big fish they'd pursued in a year, and their reputation had taken a hit after Titan Core left and 2 other clients followed. Meanwhile, we submitted a custom, razor-sharp proposal. Not flashy. Just smart. We outlined a 9-month rollout strategy with phase benchmarks, mock creative concepts, audience studies, and digital metrics. We didn't promise the world, we promised results. A week later, Helix invited us and 3 other firms for final interviews. I expected stiff competition. But what I didn't expect was this. One of the Helix board members walked into the room and smiled at me. "You worked with Titan Core, right?" she asked. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "You came highly recommended." Turns out, Laura from Titan Core was close friends with one of Helix's advisors. She had told them, off the record, if you want loyalty, speed, and no ego, go with Third Rail. We nailed the interview. A week later, we got the email, "We're pleased to welcome you as our new agency of record." That moment hit harder than any revenge ever could. But it gets better. Because 3 days later, I got a phone call. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. It was Rick. "Hey, man. I heard about Helix. Congrats, I guess. Look. I know we didn't part ways clean. And I know things got messy. But maybe we could meet up sometime. Just to talk. I think we both learned a lot since then." I stared at my phone for a long time. It was surreal. This guy had stolen my job, lied to my face, and erased me like I was just another name on a payroll sheet. And now that his empire had collapsed and mine had grown, he wanted to talk. I didn't respond. But I did save the voicemail. Just in case I ever forget where I started. 2 months later, things came full circle. One of the Helix execs invited me to speak at an internal leadership summit. Topic: Creative integrity in a competitive industry. The event was hosted in the exact same hotel ballroom where my old firm had held their annual client gala every year. The irony wasn't lost on me. I stood on that stage in front of 300 executives, CMOs, and brand leaders, and I told my story. Not the petty details. Not the names. But the lesson. You don't need to destroy others to rise. But if someone tries to destroy you, let it fuel you. Build better. Smarter. Cleaner. And let your results speak for themselves. The applause was long. As I walked backstage, a familiar face brushed past me. My old manager. The same one who'd handed me my termination papers 2 years ago. He didn't say anything. But he gave me a small nod. Not fake. Not apologetic. Just, respectful. That was enough. Now. Third Rail is growing faster than I ever imagined. We're selective with clients. We say no more than we say yes. We're starting a mentorship program for underrepresented creatives. We've turned down acquisition offers from 2 major agencies. And Rick? Last I heard, he's working in middle management at a tech startup. He still updates his LinkedIn with buzzwords and thought leadership posts that get 5 likes. Good for him. But I'm done watching. Because revenge doesn't live in the past. It lives in the future you build without them. I built a business to get revenge. But now someone's trying to take it from me. It started with a glitch. Just a small one. One of our long-standing clients, a sustainable fashion brand called Valerie, emailed to ask why their homepage was suddenly redirecting to a broken page. Their sales page had gone dark for 6 hours, costing them thousands. At first, we assumed it was a back-end error. I called Elias and Maya to go over the logs, check the CMS, investigate hosting. But something didn't add up. The backups were intact. The redirects weren't random. And someone had intentionally rewritten the routing scripts. Not a hacker. Not a bot. Someone on our team. We launched an internal review. Quietly. The client never found out how deep the issue went. I made sure of that. We restored the page within the hour, comped them 2 months of service, and reassured them it wouldn't happen again. But I was furious. Not scared. Not anxious. Angry. Not because the sabotage worked. Because someone thought I wouldn't notice. I started cross-referencing logins, version histories, commit messages. We used Git for every deployment. That's when I noticed a contributor tag I didn't recognize. t.rhodes_dev. The username didn't belong to anyone on our full-time or freelance team. Except, it did. When I checked the machine ID, it matched Jess's company-issued MacBook. Jess. The intern-turned-senior strategist I had pulled from obscurity. The one who told me she'd follow me anywhere. I confronted her privately. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "Why is someone using your laptop to inject code into a client's live site?" She froze. Then she cracked. Tears welled up. She told me she'd been offered money. Not by a client. Not by Rick. But by someone else I didn't expect, a rival firm called Lift9, a mid-size agency that had been eyeing our clients for months. They approached Jess through LinkedIn. Told her she had talent. Promised her a six-figure offer if she could disrupt our operations subtly. Nothing too dramatic. A failed deployment here. A missed file there. A client notes email that mysteriously didn't send. She was their Trojan horse. And I had let her in. What would Rick have done in my place? Easy. Fire her. Call her out publicly. Sue her if possible. Let the internet chew her up and spit her out. But I wasn't Rick. So I asked her one question. Why didn't you just quit and take their offer? Her voice cracked. Because I believed in what you built. I wanted more. I wanted what you have. And that's when it hit me. I hadn't just built a team. I'd built a symbol. And symbols come with shadows. I let her go. Quietly. No lawsuit. No social post. No scorched earth. But I made sure every agency within our network knew that Lift9 was actively poaching talent unethically. I shared the evidence, not naming Jess, but showing the pattern. 2 weeks later, Lift9 lost 2 major clients. Not because I asked. Because word travels in this industry. Especially when you lie. Then came the bigger problem. Helix, the massive client we just landed, scheduled an urgent strategy review. At first, I thought it was about the Valerie situation. But no. Helix had been approached directly by Lift9 with a new offer, one that included proprietary research and a roadmap that suspiciously mirrored ours. Word for word. I flew to their HQ personally. Walked into the boardroom, presented a single document, the Git commit history that showed Jess's unauthorized edits, the timestamps, the connection to Lift9, and the internal Slack messages where she'd taken notes during meetings and forwarded them to an outside email. I didn't point fingers. I just showed receipts. The Helix CMO leaned back, nodded slowly, and said, "You handled this with class. That's why we hired you." I thought that was the end. But this story isn't about revenge anymore. It's about what happens when you become the person people try to take down. 6 months later, I get an email from an anonymous Proton mail address. The subject line. "You were Rick's revenge story. Now you're mine." Attached was a single file. An audio recording. It was Jess. In a phone call with someone at Lift9. Talking about how he's so arrogant now, how he walks like he owns the whole world, and how we're going to hollow third rail from the inside. The tone wasn't sad. It was venomous. I didn't know whether to feel betrayed, or impressed. Because this wasn't about money. It was personal. I played the tape 3 times. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer. And my PR consultant. And then. I did something unexpected. I called Rick. I didn't even know if he'd pick up. But he did. Well, this is a surprise. I told him the situation. Not everything. Just the outline. His voice was calm. Let me guess. Someone young. Ambitious. Angry you didn't see them sooner. I nodded. You built something great, he said. Now it's your turn to protect it. I wanted to laugh at the irony. This man, who tried to destroy me, was now giving me advice on how not to get destroyed. Maybe revenge really does come full circle. I took a sabbatical for the first time in 3 years. Told my team I needed to zoom out. In reality, I spent 2 weeks redesigning every policy, firewall, and structure of the company. I hired a full-time security engineer. We ran audits. Installed double verification chains. Created need-to-know protocols even I had to follow. And when I returned, we were bulletproof. Not just technologically. Culturally. I had one last move left. I offered Jess a job again. Wait, what? Yes. I offered her a role in a shell company I quietly formed. An experimental brand lab that would operate under a different name and let her lead. She accepted immediately. And within weeks, she started leaking again, only this time, I planted fake client lists, false campaign drafts, and misleading budgets. Lift 9 thought they were stealing gold. They were swallowing poison. 2 months later, they launched a disastrous campaign based on the false intel, resulting in one of their biggest clients dropping them for breach of trust. I never said a word. But I smiled when I saw their press release. Third rail today. We're smaller than we could be. But better than we've ever been. Because I've learned this. Revenge is easy. Integrity is harder. But in the end, it's the only thing that lasts.